As we know, the more a business runs on systems and processes, the more scalable it is, and the more valuable it is if it's scalable, because it requires less human capital and humans can be used to solve the big problems. That's where we want humans to be used, right? And so, as we've said before, a business should be systems and processes that take in capital, it's an input, and output more capital, that's money as an output. That's all a business really is. Now, the way it does that, it has to have quality products, a great story, it has to do really good things, of course, but the business is meant to do that thing. And people are there to run those systems and processes that create that, not be the systems or processes. And so that should be your goal as a business, is to get humans into the places where only humans can be, and then systems and processes that the humans run. Those could be technologies, those could be processes that the humans go through, your staff, in order to deliver your products and services in a scalable way. And so in e-commerce especially, systems allow you to scale more profitably. And SOPs are how you ensure systems are run correctly and consistently. And so if you want a valuable business, you need a good set of functioning SOPs that people within the business can follow. And so today we're going to walk through how to build SOPs and the critical SOPs that every e-commerce company or e-commerce channel should have. So let's get into it. And first, I want to say Metacake helps consult with e-commerce companies of a certain size and grow them. We also have an equity arm, so we also own companies. And so that's kind of where we get our ability to do this. We've been doing this for 10 plus years now. And so we have to write SOPs and manage different departments of e-commerce businesses all the time, as well as the strategy of how they grow in healthy ways. And so that's why we're qualified to talk about this and what we're going to get into today. And so first, what are SOPs and what should they look like? So SOPs are essentially instructions, and if you own a business or run a business, or if you're at any type of scale, you know this, right? They're instructions for how a system and process should work. And this provides scale and consistency in your business, and it ensures that the knowledge of how to do something is not sitting inside of any one person, especially, a leader or a founder. And you clearly most likely understand this, but you may not be using these in all the places that you should. And so to make them more exciting, let's think about them. I like to think about SOPs or internal processes like a secret recipe. And so we all know Coca-Cola. And if you know anything about Coca-Cola, if you go, I believe, to Atlanta or around Atlanta where the Coke headquarters is, there's a vault, and inside of that vault is Coke's recipe. And they protect it with a literal vault because it is the recipe to their success. It's the recipe to their product and their business. For you, your business recipe is largely your systems and processes, the formula that you create to create your product in a way that is valuable to someone and also is profitable to your business. And those are your SOPs, and it's important to define them and take care of them, curate them, and protect them. And so the goal of an SOP here is to get the knowledge out of any one single person's head and into a system that others can follow. And so here's a basic template. First thing, you want to generally list the department that the SOP is for, right? And so this might be fulfillment, this might be marketing. And then you probably then want to list the system name or the role that will be running this SOP. And so this might be how we fulfill orders, right, inside the fulfillment department. So it's simple, but it's important to name the SOP. Then next, you want to define the outcome for this process. So what does a successful process look like? So this might be, for example, orders getting successfully packed and then given to the carrier for shipment, right? So from order created until to order packed. The next thing you want is a metric to use to measure the success or failure of this SOP. And ideally, it's very binary. It's not a judgment call. It's did this work or didn't this work? And so this might be a metric like orders placed versus orders shipped per day, right? So we know we didn't ship all the orders that got placed, or we did. This could be return rate and other things like that. But you want a metric, ideally a single metric, that lets you measure the health or the success of that SOP or that system at scale. The next thing you want is the roles required to accomplish this, right? So who is actually going to be doing this? Who should be doing this? It's a simple one, but it needs to be defined. Then something that not a lot of people have is some sort of time constraint. This might be a time budget, how much time it should take you, or how fast this should be done, or what the timing is or schedule for this process. That might be during the day or a certain time of day, but some sort of time constraint is important to give someone a barometer for how long they should spend on this, when they should do it, what cadence they should do it in, etc. Then something simple is we want to link to previous and next kind of steps in this system. So what happened before, what was the process that happened that landed the order in my lap that I have to fulfill so that I can have visibility into that. And obviously someone else is following that SOP, but linking them together is important. And then what happens next? If a lot of times you fulfill an order, and you drop it in the bucket that then is going to get taken to the carrier, what is the next step? Who's taking that thing to the carrier for shipment? So just kind of linking them together is critical. And then lastly, but most importantly, is a detailed list of instructions from A to B. How does an order in Shopify, in this kind of fulfillment example, that's go from being in Shopify to getting packed and waiting for a carrier with accurate shipping information and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. And so that's your template for an SOP, a basic template. You should adjust it for yourself as needed. And so now let's look at how do we know what SOPs to generate for our business? Well, the question that you should ask yourself are, what are the things that need to happen on a regular basis, each quarter, each month, each week, or each day for the business to keep running well? And what then are the systems and processes that we need to create so that someone can walk through the steps in that thing, right? So you can think about your day. I generally think about it from a department standpoint. So first you can look at the different departments. You got marketing, you've got fulfillment, you've got procurement or supply chain, you've got products, you got all these different departments, right? And then inside of that, what are the critical things that need to happen so that you can, get your product in front of the eyes of a potential customer, get them through the funnel, take an order in, fulfill that order, handle a return, customer service, all that kind of stuff that goes with it. And then how do you sell to them again? Because we know that the secret to e-commerce is lifetime value. How do you sell to them again? All those different things. Like, just take yourself through that, start noting down the different systems, and then just start checking them off and knocking them out as you go along from highest priority to lowest priority. Real quick, what are the benefits of an SOP, or better yet, what are some signs that you may experience that tell you you need better or you need SOPs? What do those signs look like? So it might be that one person is involved in many areas of the business. This happens often when the business is early stage. It might be dependent on a few people or a founder. And as it grows, those people may still be involved in different areas of the business. They may still hold all the knowledge that and they have to teach other people, and that's not really documented down. That is one sign. Another is that you have chaos as more orders come in general in your business. Another is that you may have chaos when you're going into Q4. We've talked about how the marketing teams need to have systemized SOPs to figure out how to plan promotions, execute promotions, and not just be up all night and making mistakes and breaking things. last minute, especially going into Q4, but really any promotional period. And side note, we have something called the eCommerce Bootcamp, which is a program that we take entire marketing teams through for giant brands that teach you scalable systems on how to create successful and scalable promotions and then execute them without being stressed out and staying up all night and breaking things and all that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. That's the eCommerce Bootcamp. You can find that on our website or linked below. But that is an important part of this. Another sign might be that you have inconsistent results in core e-commerce business. In your core e-commerce systems. And the core systems of e-commerce are acquisition, conversion, maximization, and fulfillment. And if you have inconsistent results in any of those places, you're not bringing people in consistently through quality traffic. You're not converting people consistently on your website. You're not actually getting repeat purchases and lifetime value increasing. And you're not fulfilling things very, very well. And you're getting customer complaints or order errors, etc. Those are signs that you need better SOPs and potentially better leadership in those different departments. You might have inconsistent revenue. You might have poor profit, which is really where this comes in. You can kind of get away with revenue without having really consistent SOPs, but you can't get away with good profit without having consistent and really solid SOPs. And so if there's one reason to do it, it is profit. It's that. You might have customer complaints, and you might have the inability to scale your business, which ultimately is what SOPs does. The better the SOPs, the more scalable your business is. And so those are some signs that you need to focus in this area. So now let's look at a list of what you should prioritize. What are the SOPs that you might want to look at and prioritize them? And I'm not gonna dig into these too much. I'm just gonna list them down. You can start to build yours off of this. You can see if maybe you're missing some, but this could be a good starting point for you. So first, we're gonna look at the marketing department. So in marketing, marketing people in the marketing department, because of their immense creativity and energy, and that's really what they're there for, sometimes they can be the ones running without any structure. And that can be dangerous because that can mean that they spend too much, or they're not watching things, or costs can quickly get out of control, and you can have a lot of inefficiency there and spend a lot of money there, which reduces your profit. And so marketing is one to really look at. So the marketing department, that might be how you launch and run promotions. That might be how you launch products, new products, and when you should be doing that. There's a frequency for when you should be doing these things. That might be your ambassadors program. Definitely needs an SOP. How do we take in ambassadors? What do we need from them? How do we manage the relationships with them, etc.? Creating new content, which is critical to your brand success. We talk about that as being a key part of building a successful brand is content and story. How do we create that content? What happens with it when it's created? How do we do it in a scalable way? What happens to the site? Does a blog post go up? Does an email go out? Does a social media post go out? Are we creating videos, etc.? How are we doing those things? The more you define that, the more you don't have to worry about it. And that's the goal, is that stuff is done once by a human being and then multiplied through the scale of these SOPs on how it's broken down. How do you run your social media? When do you post? How do you post, etc.? What kind of voice do you have? What kind of quality do you post? Do you have someone check it, etc.? How do you do your pay-per-click marketing or any paid marketing? Budgets, optimizations, creative refreshes, how it's done, who's doing it. Those are critical things. And then most likely you're creating all kinds of media. So that's needed for all these different things. So when you're running a promotion, or if you're launching an ad or something like that, you need creative, which might be videos, it might be images, copy, banners, etc. What are the specs for those? Who's creating them? How are they created ideally? And so that everything is right there when you launch that promotion. You have your banner, you have your video, you have your ads, and it's done in the right size, the right format, with the right copy, and on time. And so marketing is that top area that I would look at for SOPs being defined. Next is fulfillment. Fulfillment has to happen in a consistent way. Otherwise, your customer experience suffers and your business suffers. So inside of fulfillment, how are things picked and packed? How are things packaged? Are you doing customizations? If you're doing customizations, what's the process for doing customizations? How does it get from fulfillment to the carrier? And how are returns done as well? Next is customer service. And so customer service, again, is the front line of fan creation, we often say. And we'll link to some articles on how you create fans of your brand and what the value of fans are to your brand. But it's the front line. Your customer service is the front line. When someone has a problem, they can create they can generate that person into a fan. They can convert that problem into a fan, or they can create a bigger problem. So there's a lot that should be focused there. So some things to think about are how to respond to common questions and problems that happen. You're going to have common questions over and over again. Build that list of questions, build the way you respond every single time, and add to that list as you continue to build your business, as you continue to experience more customer service inquiries. How do they elevate a problem that is outside of that list that they may not know how to deal with to someone that knows how to deal with it? So those are two SOPs inside of customer service. Next is financial and reporting. This is a department that obviously is super important. And so you want to look at, you want to have SOPs for business health reporting, right? Are you looking at things monthly? What are you looking at? Is it a P&L? Are you looking at an ASR, which is an ad spend to revenue report, which is we will link to some of those kind of things, but that is the key report to, is your marketing in a healthy space? You want obviously sales data, and you may want some other KPIs as well, but how is that happening? Who's generating them? Where are they getting sent? On what frequency are they getting sent? Next is payroll. How is payroll getting done? Obviously, you might have an HR company running that or someone else, but that needs to happen consistently and it needs to happen without error. So make sure that there's an SOP for that. Accounting, what is the process for closing out a month, a quarter, a year? Are there bonuses that are created? What do you do with profit? How do you assess that you have profit? How do you go back and look at, if you don't have it in the right bounds, what it should be, etc. That is all inside of that SOP. And then expense review. You should do a quarterly, yearly expense review of recurring expenses and other sorts of things to make sure that those are in line. And what is the process for going through those? Who's doing them? And what's the result? Lastly is product. And inside a product, obviously, this is the key part of your business. This is what you're generating to people. And so you want a system for making sure that your supply chain, how you get your product and make your product, how that's done exactly so that more people can jump into it, it can scale appropriately, and also you can optimize it and make sure that it's healthy. The next thing is how you're improving your product. So that's R&D. We talk a ton about R&D, how to do it, what the value is in R&D, how do you expand your product line correctly. And you should have a process for how you're doing R&D consistently every single month over time so that you're creating new products that your customers would want. And so those are some examples of SOPs that you might want to start with, and you might have additional ones based on all the different ones in your business, and hopefully that's kind of giving you some ideas. So let's just kind of like wrap this one up, and then we're going to jump into another one, which is kind of tips on how you create these things. But in this kind of video, our goal is to really communicate the benefit and the structure and kind of get what is not exciting become exciting because it's so important to your bottom line. And so hopefully this did that for you a little bit. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to help the process of creating them and letting your team use them, make that a little bit easier. But listen, if you're hitting a growth ceiling, or you need to scale past a certain point and you want to do that in healthy ways that create profit, ways that create scalability and consistency over time, and are not just about hacks that you're chasing all day long that actually may end up in short-term rewards but long-term losses. If you want to look at how you scale your e-commerce brand in healthy ways, reach out to us and we'd love to help. Thanks.